Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By the way, I want to introduce David Woods, who has joined our team here at City Hall. And we volunteered him to be the secretary-treasurer for this group. So he's going to take roll call.
That's good, good. And we will start with that.
All right, roll call. Mike Ballard.
Here.
Lawrence Myers. Here. Nicole French.
Yep.
Jeff Giglio.
Here.
Dee Patel. Susan Johnson.
Here.
Bridget Bennett. Dana Kryler.
Here.
Donna Roush.
Here.
Kelly Fowler.
Here.
Condre Sue Mahurin.
Here.
Candy.
I must have butchered that.
That's okay. I know who you meant.
And Laura Oliver.
Here.
Quorums in both groups.
Ours both groups, very good. Must be something different going on tonight. There's a few more in the attending than we usually see. Hi, Jean. It's been a while. Welcome. Glad we have a lot of folks and come out tonight on this special calling of the Tourism Committee and Commission. Happy. Thanks for putting a lot of information together for us this evening. And with that, we'll start with approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have some minutes from the last time we met. In
July 19th.
July 19th.
Yep.
make a motion to approve.
Any second?
I'll second.
Dina? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to the financial report.
So we're looking at TTC, year-to-date balance. When I printed this on September 12th, we had collected $30,817.83. We budgeted $20,000, so we were way over our expected amount. As of, you can see the lodging tax receipts on the next page, $30,507.41 so far up until at the end of August. We'll have an updated number next month for the rest of the budget year. And then the expenses, collections and expenses, bottom of the second page, $67,625.29 is where we are. We had a few expenditures this month, but we had more that came in. So it was a pretty good August. Any questions?
On track pretty good for the lodging tax. Might even, depending on how September comes in, might even compete with our high a few years ago. Didn't we have a high a few years ago in the 30s?
2017.
Yeah, 17.
Yep.
Because of the eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And
That $22,000 July, right? Wow.
And then Happy, so our financial obligation to JAD Creative, that's complete? Thank you.
And we've received the state portion of that in reimbursement.
Any questions about the numbers? How many facilities did you say, Happy, you were collecting from? You sent me that information. Did you say 20?
Sure, whatever I
20
sent you.
Whatever you sent me.
I think it was
23, sound right?
23 different individual groups. It doesn't include all of the spaces.
Oh, okay, because some places might have more than,
Because if you look at Microtel being one, if you look at the Triangle Inn, we've got some Airbnbs that are have 3 units, others just a single unit.
right.
So we probably have 25 to 30 different, no, I mean, we're gonna be over that. We have 100 and, I've got the numbers in the office. I think
That's
it's
okay,
120 rooms, separate rooms, and 37 in the county.
Okay.
I think that's right. Does that sound right to you, David? Kind of,
Yeah, I mean, definitely on the VRBOs, Airbnbs, there's about 20 in town and about 40 in the entire county.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'd expect our numbers, you know,
And we've had more come online in the last couple of years. So there's more Airbnbs or VRBOs, in both the city and the county. So we have more, and that's also going to bring in more for your tourism dollars.
yeah, good. Any questions on the financials?
There's a motion to approve.
The, on the
On the
financials,
financials,
right,
yeah.
yeah? Motion to approve those, please.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Laura? Good, thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Abby.
That's always easy to forget.
Yeah. Sitting here looking at the next thing. Public comments. We have a lot of people with us tonight. Again, appreciate the interest from the community. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks.
If anyone would like to, at this time, take the podium and have any words, we'd appreciate hearing from you. Dog. The dog would like to.
Roscoe has something to say.
Are they a resident or a stray?
So it depends on if you want to take, comments directly at this point, or if you want to include them more
Yeah.
when we get down to new business.
Right, and we can do that. I mean, if nobody has anything right away, we'll just go ahead and jump into, well, we gotta go through the old business, but when we get to that point, by all means, as the conversation kind of unfolds, if somebody has something, please, raise your hand and join us, for comment. So, need to review the old business there?
So I didn't put anything down as an item, if
Yeah.
somebody's got something they want to talk about with old business, but I figured I'd say whatever old business we've had in the past, because of the focus that we were asked to look at by the board, so I just put it in new business.
It's good, we'll move on to that then.
All right, so Board of Aldermen met a couple weeks back. I threw at them an option of, since we've gone through 2 tourism directors in the last 2 years, there seems to be too much that person has to do. The option is to potentially put all of our advertising that we're spending on the individual and the money we put into our marketing, and put that into an organization, a marketing agency, to do the marketing for the city. So my reasoning behind this is we are working our way out of the Welcome Center as the sole owner, but we will have a corner there. And the board has decided that we will have people in the Welcome Center to greet people as they come into town. So we'll continue our part, and the Park Service will continue their part. But do we need a tourism director to oversee all of this? If we're not going to have the building, we just have staff, wouldn't it be better if we put that into the financial part of the marketing instead of into an individual who needs to put all this together? In the course of that discussion, was contacted by Bob Mueller, was contacted by Megan Rogers of the Division of Tourism, saying, by the way, you're a DMO, you have to have somebody on staff at least 32 hours a week to be a designated marketing organization for the county. And of course, this year we have to renew it, so we'll be doing that for the next couple of months. But then that means we have to have somebody full-time. So, all right, if we're going to have a tourism director, the one thing that I see, one thing we've tried to encourage is that tourism director work with the different groups and try to organize a marketing plan that encourages, includes, and focuses on everybody. And over the time, we've taken on more responsibilities, more requirements at the Welcome Center and as the individuals. And what I see with the 2 people I've had come in is that they've been working 60, 70 hours a week. You can't sustain it, and I think that's where our problem lies at this point. So if we're going to keep a tourism director, then we need to refocus that person's attention, and the community needs to step in as well and be a part of making that job sustainable for the individual, because they're working too much or there's too much input. There's a lot of different groups and organizations where they have their agenda. There are certain things that they need or want. We've been working away from certain things because of conflict that we've bumped into. But my feeling is, so coming into this and talking with the board, my feeling is our responsibility as a city is to market. We need to get people into town. That's our responsibility. We've taken on a lot of other small tasks, and that's just compiled the issues that we are trying to oversee so much and be responsible for so much. We have to call, or we got to organize. And this year we found it difficult with one of the tour groups because they never called us back. Both Jeff and I attempted to contact them, and we got no return call. So it looks like it's bad on our end of it, but we're not getting a call back to organize whatever it is that they're requesting from us, and for us to ask for a contract so we know our rights and responsibilities. So with that discussion coming up, and a lot of the folks here had their own opinions and things to put in to what needs to happen with our tourism department. So remember, our tourism department is 1 full-time person and 4 part-time people. The board has put in to have the part-time people back down at the Welcome Center. You've got the job description for that if you want to amend that a little bit. I didn't want to start hiring and put that out there until you all had a chance to look at it. But we're gonna do that immediately following this meeting so that we can start getting people back down to the Welcome Center. But for the tourism director part of it, we cannot sustain what we're doing. What do you want that person to do? Market or try to be the end-all be-all, which we can't be, for the city? We cannot sustain it. So I'm seeing a little bit of it firsthand, but let me also say, I'm not going to very many meetings other than what I'm responsible for. And that's part of what has been asked of our tourism director, is to be like the marketing manager for all of these different groups and organizations, or coordinate all of this. We need some work to come back to us where we're not having to reach out all the time. But for the tourism director, do you want it to be, how many areas do you want them to be, to be able to be fully competent in? Because we're kind of just stretching it way out, and then they're doing too much themselves, trying to reach out, because that's one of the things we've said. Reach out to everybody and let's see if we can get things coordinated and working. And what we're finding is there's just too much. You can only be at so many places at so many times. So we've also done a little bit of organizing. We had the bike ride, the gravel road race. We've done a little bit of organizing. Do we want to do that? If you have that person do that, how many of those are we going to do? What is the responsibility then of the tourism director to organize that? And most of that was put on by TrailNet, so that helped. But what I'm seeing is, even with Toby here, there was so much that he was trying to do and be present that it was just, after all, it became too much. So you have the job description in front of you. We can discuss a little bit tonight. We can get some input from the public. We can set up a task force if you want to try to narrow it down. We're 30 days into not having somebody in the position. I would say that our advertising is suffering. I'm doing what I can. We've got a few campaigns coming up. We've got some events coming up that we're getting ready to advertise for. So we're getting stuff there, but trust me, I am not an expert at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything that has a button that you have to use for it. But we've got billboards that we're working with. We've got radio advertising that we're doing. That's part of the state, part of our state grant. So we've got outlets for getting the word out. And I think we've been successful. Jurtafest went very well. I think Oktoberfest was successful in this first year. Probably needs to be marketed a little bit more, maybe some more targeted marketing. But we're not ignoring anything, and we've got Pecanapalooza, which I think is the next big event that we have coming up, and then the holiday Christmas festival. So those will be the big things that we'll focus on as the city. But in between, we also have to bring people into town, because we have, the historical homes, we have the historical structures, we have the Museum Learning Center, which today they received a resolution, or Guy DeRoe received a resolution from the state for his efforts to find the dinosaur, and then this place becomes officially the home of that dinosaur. So that's something that we want to advertise and get out there. And we've been trying to do that, a little bit the last 8-9 months. So now that I throw it all on you, I'm just going to go back to my office and. But that's kind of where I am with why we're sitting here and talking about this tonight, is because of what I've seen of our tourism director and the responsibilities and requirements that people are trying to put on that person. We have to manage it. We can't let it continue to work like it's working.
Happy, can you give us a little summary of where we are in the processes of a couple things? One, the Board of Aldermen, I believe, are getting ready to vote on the budget, right?
Yes.
So do we have numbers by chance? Do we have numbers that shows what is currently allocated to You mentioned the staffing, for instance.
So we have 86,000 roughly that's in staffing. We figure 34,000, and that's just the salary line, not including the benefits or FICA. So we figure between 45 and 50,000 for a tourism director. If you want to give me a minute, I'll run back to my office and I'll get you some exact numbers.
Do you want this?
And that would be really helpful.
I was gonna look it up, but you probably know what page.
I just know which line to look for.
And Happy, we're still strictly talking about the city contribution. We have not talked to the county
Correct.
or any other entities about
That was my next question.
contributing.
Right.
Okay.
So we budgeted 89,548. So I know during our calculations, it isn't in here, but our calculations was 34,000 plus or minus for the part-time people. So the rest of it would be your tourism director and some cushion in there. And then you have all your other areas that it ends up being for part-time people about $40,000 with the FICA that we have to pay and workers' compensation.
How does that compare to before the last two?
Same. It's the same.
Okay. Do we have a list of what their obligations were?
The Welcome Center people?
No, the
Directors?
previous directors. I mean, is that something that we could look at? And
So this is, it's in here.
Previous job descriptions.
Same
Yeah.
job description.
same job.
Same job, yeah.
So this is too
But
much.
the pay was different for each.
Pay was different for the two, yeah. We paid Jeff more because of his experience in the digital part.
And got less. Really?
Ironic, huh?
I'm sorry, what?
Ironic, isn't it?
Ironic, yeah.
Kathy? If I may, just as a way of getting started, I think on the idea of looking at what was being done, and I think everyone being on kind of the same page that, yeah, we asked an awful lot of, like you say, these guys working 60, 70 hours a week. And I think that there are quite a few of us who are on the same page, that I get the sense that you and a lot of the aldermen are on about the city has a priority in getting people here. I think we're going in a useful direction with putting people back in the Welcome Center. But again, as we've been saying, we all have to be we all have to be the Welcome Center. We all have to cross-market. And I think we're going in some good and useful directions with that, and appreciate the support that you've given to that. But just as a start and thinking of things that could be pruned down, I would respectfully suggest that the tourism director should not be trying to organize special events. There are a lot of special events that we do, more and more. One this year with Oktoberfest, lots of other things that are happening. But if the tourism director's priority is to be the salesperson, spending time, even though like with the bike race, as you say, the TrailNet people did a bulk of the work, but there was also an awful lot that sucked up apparently a fair amount of Mr. Wicks's time. And whether that needs to be specified or simply left out, but unless other people feel really strong about, gee, the tourism director should be organizing special events, particularly kind of on their own without a whole lot of input from community elements. It seems like a good place to start with drawing some limits.
But they do have to coordinate all these events, so it's a cohesive thing, and it meets a calendar. Someone has to work on that.
Yeah.
So they're going to have responsibility for it, whether they're actually coming up with the ideas, but they're gonna have to manage it.
Well, the tracking and the promotion, it's, giving them the product to sell, but they shouldn't be coming up with the product is what I'm saying.
So I know you're asking for us to coordinate. which I know-
Someone needs to.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of different groups coming up with events and things. Someone has to manage those and get it on the calendar. And
Right,
Get
so
it out there.
it would be the person that's coming up with the idea for an event to get that information to the tourism director, not the tourism director's responsibility to go to them.
So find people that,
Right,
Yeah, because like October 22nd, there's like 4 different activities
Yes.
going on, but at different times throughout the day, and that works.
Yeah, there is a lot to be kept track of, but that's different from creating.
right.
So, and that's kind of what we're looking at too, is what skills are most important? What do you want that person to be able to do? Do you want them to, know the online type marketing, Facebook, Twitter, or do you think, where are our dollars best spent? We're doing a lot of terrestrial radio, we're doing some, I get it wrong every time, search engine marketing. We're doing some search engine marketing this year. That's through the state. A little bit of print, the yearly state magazine or state tourism books that have come out, we're in there. So we're doing a lot of different things. And we got the cards, the rack cards that we have throughout on the highways. We still do all that.
I think one of the more important things is the number one thing, public face of the city. People are coming to town, and the advertising that's been done so far is working. They're coming here, but then once they get here, what are you going to do with them? We need someone that can direct them, which is why you physically need someone in the Welcome Center. They're lost. They think Welcome Center, they think information. So you go to the Welcome Center and get information. Right now there's, I think Jan's there a couple days a week, but when she's not there, the National Park does not sell St. Genevieve. They only talk up their, buildings or whatever. So, I've had people that are staying in my cabin. They're like, we've gone to the Welcome Center and I've heard rude, or they just don't give them that information, or they point them to a map. So the number one duty would be the public face of the city and someone to physically be there to direct people where to go once they get here. We can market all we want, but once they get here, where are they gonna go to find the information of what time is this house open, or what time is that, where are there, a map of the restaurants and the shops and whatever, and the hours and whatever, so,
I'm not sure that necessarily needs to fall on a director, though.
Right.
Yeah, they have that
That's
four
just your
employees.
right, well,
part-time.
that would be your part-time people,
Right.
right, but, I mean,
As long as
The
someone's
director has-
competent enough to explain
Right.
to
Somebody
them
needs
what
to
to
be there all
do.
the time.
somebody needs to be there physically, all the time. Right, 7 days a
And
week.
why couldn't we share the space with the national park? Like,
We are.
Just go, oh,
I don't mean in the corner.
that's a button.
I mean, why can't the Welcome Center folks and the national park folks be at the main desk and share the whole space? And that way, if they come in and have a question about the national park, this one steps up. If they have general questions about whatever, then the Welcome Center staff sits. I mean, why does it have to be shoved in the corner. I just think it's more important that they need to be front and center.
So I think it's, you have a separation of requirements when you have the federal government that are in. So I'm not gonna speak for the Park Service, but I believe they need to be in a separate area because they also are doing sales that we aren't doing. And we have, our corner is not like we're blocked, you can't see us. It is where you can walk over there, but, I just think, having it separated helps the Park Service then delineate what their responsibilities are.
Well, if we have a welcome center staff person there, anytime that building is open, and then I guess they can just kind of mingle amongst the customers that come in and try to help them that way. Because I just think we need more customer service oriented people in there.
Especially,
It's so
especially
important.
a lot of our tourists are older people who don't like technology for whatever reason and don't have,
They want the walking map and.
yes,
and
they
it's-
want something physically to hold
They
in
just
their
want someone
hands.
to talk to.
Right.
Now they just sound lonely.
But I'm serious, they want
Yeah.
information from a person.
They still like the brochures and the rat cards and the walking maps,
Right, yeah, younger people are only going to the Welcome Center for the bathrooms.
Right. Yeah.
And we've got the
They have
maps.
everything else on there.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
need someone to recommend places to go, we have our phones.
Right.
But yeah, we have the maps there, we have all the brochures, we've done some rearranging in there to make things a little cleaner looking, so.
So having said that, then, can you give us an update on what exactly is happening down there, what the time frame is? What's this building, what's this place gonna look like when the dust settles?
I don't think it's gonna look too much different than what it is right now. Eventually, the city wants to dedicate it to the Park Service. They would take over management, ownership of it.
Ownership?
Yep. But they have offered to keep us in, and we would probably work on a cooperative agreement that would keep us, have a kiosk there, and have a presence in that building, again, with the materials that would be for the local businesses, restaurants, the other historic homes that they don't own. And we would continue to cooperate with them on, whatever needs to be done to the building to maintain it, which is what they're doing with us right now.
So not going back and reinventing the wheel or the conversation, but what I guess what was the thought process behind the city giving away what I can think is a very nice facility that the River Roads and a lot of folks, years ago, put a lot of sweat in. I mean, it's a nice facility. Why would the city want to give that away?
I think there was a big push to bring the National Park Service in here and encourage them to be in our city. So that was one of the facilities that I believe was discussed. Susie might have a little more information on what the discussions were with the board, but what I understood was that was an attraction to get the Park Service here, to locate here, and to make their presence known. And by doing that, the thought was the city would then be relieved of that financial responsibility and be able to put it somewhere else. You can put it into roads, you can put it into,
Put it in tourism.
you can put it into marketing.
Or hire yourself.
I mean, I guess that's, if we're gonna go down that road, what is the city gonna, first of all, and I don't know all the agreements and incentives and stuff, but why would the city give it to, when they came to town, is my understanding, I don't know, there's not a representative here from oh, there you are, yeah. So, please correct me if I'm wrong, but, when this stamp was put on this thing, what was it, a year and a half ago? When we had our two and a half, yeah. When the stamp was put on this, I remember talking with some representatives at the time about a facility downtown, and they were still looking. So I don't know that it was so much of an attractant, to get them in town, because I thought that deal was kind of discussed and talked about after the fact. So, I mean, if that ship has sailed, then I'll just be quiet at this point, and if the building's already been, agreed to be given to them, then it is what it is. But it seems like that is a very nice and valuable piece of property that I'm not saying the city should have got a mint for, but at the same time, a lot of dollars that could go towards tourism for several years. And if, you know, if the maintenance piece of that and the upkeep and everything else that the city would be saving from it, then kind of would make sense for that to go back to what we're talking about tonight, I would feel like, you know. Has that been discussed on the board, that you know of?
I don't believe so.
No, the intention was to transfer it to the National Park Service.
But even if it transfers to the National Park Service, there's gotta be some savings there in the
Right.
budget.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that money that's being saved on the building should be going right back into the tourism budget.
And we can, yeah,
Just an,
Right.
you know,
It-
has that been explored, and what kind of dollars are we even talking about, you know? Maybe it's not all that much, but I do know, if I remember correctly from whenever I was city administrator, it was a chunk of change to maintain. Now, I know a lot of that is personnel, and I guess this that we're talking about in the budget proposed this year, that Happy already mentioned, the 89,000, was for personnel specifically, is that correct?
yeah, yeah. So you have two other sections that are for materials and supplies and for maintenance of the building. So 26,000, 48 or 47,000, so, you know, you're looking at $70,000. Not all of that would go away, because we would still
Not all
have to
that would go away,
maintain,
absolutely,
you
yeah.
know, our presence there, and that would require that we have some office materials.
Sure.
But if you also look at what our, you know, we're looking at $30,000 worth of improvements this year, or $40,000 worth of improvements, we wouldn't have to be responsible for that. Now, the Park Service is also helping us with that as well, so it's not fully on the city to do.
And do you know, is the contract, is the contract agreement, in whatever form that looks like, already signed and sealed with the National Park Service?
Yes. I mean, we have a cooperative agreement that we're working on right now.
Okay,
Now, the sale of the property, nothing has been put into writing on that, on a timing issue. Because again, I think the Park Service is looking to expand the district before anything would happen with that building.
so the city's gonna continue to, is the Park Service pitching in to, meanwhile, until that happens, are they pitching in to help with the maintenance and et cetera, and the upkeep of the building, or is that still the city's responsibility?
No, they're helping.
Okay.
The city's not selling the building, or it's just a transfer, basically. So there's no money.
There's no money exchange, yeah, I understand, I cut that part, but there's still, what I'd say, a significant
Should be a
amount of money
savings.
in annual budget for, you know, now, again, not all that's gonna go away, you're still gonna have some sort of presence there, but, I was just kinda curious if the board, how much the board, Susie, maybe has gotten into the conversations about reallocation of those dollars.
We have not yet, because we don't have a date.
Yeah.
And I'm certain when there is a date, I will be pushing that the money that we were spending on the building stays
Yeah.
with tourism, and we
Yeah.
can fund some other things.
So I bring that up, so maybe we can kind of, you know, with the intention of possibly phasing something here, right? Maybe if we did start with, whatever that picture's gonna look like, and whatever the group and ultimately the Board of Aldermen decide is the direction they're gonna take, if it's a true fork in the road, whether it's gonna be marketing and hiring for that versus a team versus a director and staff. But it could, you know, maybe it's, hey, we're going this direction with the intent of, when it gets turned over, more and more monies would be available for, you know, I don't know, but I'm just saying that, it seems like the rearranging or juggling of the budget could, you know, there might be some dollars there.
The department doesn't go away. That remains. It's just the responsibility of a physical structure that we would not be burdened with.
Okay.
And I think in addition to thinking about that, we also need to think about other funding sources,
Mm-hmm.
not just
Sure.
savings from no longer having to maintain a building. But I
Very-
think that because we are marketing the entire county, we have some other stakeholders who could be helping us contribute.
Absolutely. Now, I heard that they kind of already were, or do you have any insight into as to what they are spending on marketing or tourism?
So the city receives $5,000 every year from the county. And there's
Yeah, I mean, so far, I'm Karen Stuckey, First District Administrator for St. John County, and so far, we've given our regular $5,000 a year that we give to the city for tourism, and then we have paid for 2 payments for billboards. So we're probably looking at over $13,000 that we've invested in tourism so far this year for the county. So, and that was something that we agreed upon. When Mr. Wicks was here, he came over and talked about the billboards and the county helping.
Yeah, that billboard project, I remember him talking and briefing us
Yes,
on that a few months ago.
those 2 payments have been made along with the $5,000, so.
13,000 roughly, you said?
Yeah, I mean, it might, you
Yeah.
know, and we agreed
Yeah.
to, I think, maybe 3 payments, is that right? Happy? 2 or 3, I know for sure we have made 2 payments, so
Yeah.
we have,
Mhm.
the city has the money,
And
so.
I'm sorry, could you remind us what the departmental budget is?
Total,
Yes,
200 and,
thank you. So Karen, with the current commission, have you all discussed assisting the city more with marketing, you know, businesses in the county, assisting with
Not at
funding
this time, I
position?
mean, we made the commitment with the billboards and, you know, the current commission, we said we would help. So we made that commitment and we have made the payments for those billboards along with the $5,000. So, we haven't discussed anything the rest of this year, and I know probably budget-wise, you know, I don't know what else we could possibly swing, so, you know, as far as next year's budget, huh?
Do you have additional payments coming forward for the billboards, or are they already paid in full? Your portion?
I don't want to say for sure. I know we made the 2 payments, and I don't remember it was 2 or 3 payments that we were obligated to, but we have made 2 payments thus far, so.
One of the things that I just want to, I guess, hit on, and I know that when you said assisting the city, you know, has there been any plans assisting the city? And that is, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is I think that the city and the county need to think of this as a joint effort, joint venture.
Yes.
And we do, and that's not the way you meant it, I know that, but my point is it's so easy for us to say, you know, are they assisting the city for this and are they assisting the city for that? And when really every person that comes to this town and spends money in this town, there's, you know, the tax dollars are going to the county and the city.
Yes.
So we collectively, I think, need to look more at a program that is benefiting both and put our collective heads together to make that happen, you know, and isn't necessarily a city charge, you know, hey, let's let, you know, come on, St. John City, let's get this program going type thing. We all know that our wineries have been very successful in promoting our town and our county, and while there will always be some sort of, you know, city functions, we get that. The dollars, and that's kind of, again, I'm so glad that you're here and that you brought it up, but the dollars that we're talking about, I think just collectively can go a lot further for having a director, having a staff, and having what we need for marketing.
And, you know, that was one of the reasons when Mr. Wicks came in, and we agreed as a county commission to do those billboards because we felt like it was helping the county also with the wineries and all the businesses that are in the county, that the county is benefiting also.
Absolutely.
So that's, you know, we made the decision and we felt like it was a good investment. So, you know, and as far as next year, you know, what we can do to help, I mean, we're going to have a new presiding commissioner and probably a new person in the 2nd district seat if, you know, that happens. So, you know, we will possibly could have two new commissioners. So, I mean, I can't speak for,
Sure.
you know, the other 2, but right now my feelings are that, you know, the county will help in whatever way we can to promote tourism, and we feel like we are a part of it, you know, with the county and what businesses and wineries and different aspects of businesses that are within the county, we both can benefit, the county and the city. So that's basically all I have to say. So
Good, thank you.
you're welcome.
Is this salary enough realistically to do any marketing? I mean, how are you, 45 to 50,000 isn't a lot of money to hire someone who knows marketing and take care of staff. I mean, it's just not a very realistic salary.
so it is based on our other department heads, except for the police chief, who's paid the most, but he also manages, you know, 10 other people and
Well-
has a lot of responsibility.
So if you're gonna stick with the salary, maybe then you get some outside company to do the advertising and not put it on the salary, because you're not gonna find many people that are gonna do this job.
I think that costs you more money
I don't know.
to outsource
Has
it
anyone
and pay a
looked at it?
salary.
Yeah.
So I actually had a question. So would it be doable to have a director with an assistant? I mean, then the salary can stay that similar amount, but then they have an assistant to help delegate, communicate with the community, with the county. I mean, you have 4 part-time, is it possible to do 1 part-time as an assistant to the director? I mean, I don't know if that's,
So you wouldn't be able to cover 7 days a week. The
Okay.
idea behind the part-timers is you have them.
that's the 7 days.
Sunday through Saturday.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we talked about that. For a part-time person, probably looking at about 30,000 plus benefits. I mean, you know, you've got, wouldn't be health insurance, that kind of stuff, but you've got FICA that you have to pay, and then also workers' compensation. So that's added on to what there is there now. So it'd be over $100,000 for just a salary position.
So Lawrence, were you proposing that the full-time position is more of like using a firm for marketing, but then the full-time position is more all of the
Yeah.
other duties?
I think the full-time position for that type of salary, correct me, I mean, it's more of a supervisory type liaison. People goes to that, organizations might go to that person to say, hey, we have an event coming up on these days. That person takes that and maybe transfers that information to this other company that's doing the actual marketing. And they facilitate and manage that staff of 4, you know, and keeping that first bullet, the public face of the city, you know, and their staff for that type of dollar. But then there would have to be dollars in other places specifically for that marketing.
Right. So it's either
And I think
how do you
that's
put that
maybe a
towards the
nice
director?
approach, depending on what other dollars are available out there.
Yeah, so you're looking at the Welcome Center assistant, so.
Yeah, that's the assistant, I understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is that the you know, chief marketing officer, yeah, but not necessarily actually doing the work, not actually changing, you know, the website, for instance, or,
Exactly.
or, you know,
They're more coordinated.
implementing, you know.
All the
Right.
entities.
But I
Yeah.
thought the reason we went with this website that we went with was so that we could maintain it ourselves.
I know, I hear you.
I feel like we've done a lot of things
To
to
kind of-
tailor to this
But
job.
wasn't that also because Wix was going to be the person maintaining it? That's why you all decided to go that route, was so he could maintain it.
Right, but
correct?
I was under the impression that, I mean, Happy's gonna learn how to maintain it,
Does
right,
the
or
city-
update it.
Does the
Teach
city
others.
have full control of the website right now?
Yeah. I mean, full control as to what I'm able to do, but yeah, we're
And
getting there.
so,
Right.
It takes a while.
and so, Gene, and be right with you, okay? And so maybe it isn't an outside agency. Maybe it is the 45 to 50,000 for the director, right, and the staff, and then maybe there is a marketing person that has to be hired for that to maintain, you know, social media and website. Gene?
My question relates directly to that. Have you all done any exploration of what it would cost to hire a marketing agency to do the kinds of things that we're all thinking about?
It depends on what level of service that you're looking for.
And what level of service are we looking for?
That's a good question. I mean, we haven't explored it very deeply because we've had some inquiries on it. We've gone through a couple of Zoom calls to look at what's out there. And they can range anywhere from 80,000 to 110,000. And you're talking a large Facebook, online advertising campaign, or you're looking at trying to do more geographic type marketing. And so we haven't gotten into that too deeply, but you know, those kinds of groups. We haven't talked to a marketing agency. These are mostly radio stations that are also doing other types of marketing as just part of their service that they're performing. But those are the numbers that we're looking at. It's probably anywhere from 50 to 150,000.
In addition to the salary for the director, let's call it, of tourism. That's on top of that, am I correct?
Well, it would be, yeah.
Yes, okay.
But that's, again, depends on the
Yeah.
level of service.
I would just suggest that before you go any farther with the notion of hiring an out-of-town advertising agency, that you find a director who can help you negotiate those waters. It can be a very, very expensive kind of enterprise, even if you have a contract with that agency, in terms of what kind of services they're actually going to give you. And this community tried that at one point, although the connection was less direct than hiring an agency. It was kind of a contract through the director. And it did not work out very well. And there are enough people around from those days, I think, that remember. This would have been, what, before Susan, before Sandra, before Toby, before Mr. Wicks, before Stephanie Bell. So it goes back a ways, but it was not a very successful enterprise.
So the one thing that I see with the advertising agency is you're using the salary that you would have and you're putting that into the advertising agency, and they have all of the people that can do the graphic designs, can do the ad buys, can do the online type stuff. So if we don't, then we do it ourselves. I mean, that's kind of the way that works out. Trying to hire an advertising agency outside of that, you're then having to pay again for some of those services.
One of the things that a number of people have approached me about the last few weeks, since all of this has come about, is I hate to say if you build it, they will come, but for the most part, there's a lot of people that aren't with us anymore that tried building it and built it, and now National Park is in town. And that in and of itself is obviously going to draw some people, right? And I'm not saying don't market, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that if that brings people to town, and again, this is what a lot of folks have been talking to me about, if that brings people to town and for whatever reason, they come to town, and they come to town and they go to the Welcome Center, or they, for whatever reason, don't have a good experience, and they're frustrated with a map, and I know some use maps and some don't, I get it, but leaving town possibly unhappy, then you could have the best marketing campaign you ever wanted to have, but if they're not going to come to town and be fulfilled and go back and tell their friends to come to town, go to St. Genevieve, then I'm wondering what direction we're going. So to me, input from them and my thought, and everybody has an opinion, right? But I am huge on customer service, no matter what your business is. And I think that we have to have a face, we have to have that liaison, we have to have that belly button that I told you, you have to have somebody that when people come to town, and I'm not saying that, that the Park Service can't do that or don't do a good job with it. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not their job. And therefore, to me, a warm body in a seat someplace where somebody can go and have a good experience and a little bit of guidance, if you build that first and build around it, like Gene was saying, now have that person or those people go out and say, okay, now let's define where we want the marketing to go. That's the feedback that I've gotten, and that's kind of my 2 cents.
I think it goes back to what Jeff was saying, though, is the whole town is responsible for being the face of the city.
Absolutely.
And that,
They are, but at the same time, when people step off a marketing bus, there better be somebody that, we want buses to come to town, we want riverboats to come to town, and if there's not a person saying, welcome to St. Genevieve, they can ask them a question, and they don't know which way to point, they're gonna go, why did you bring us here? You have to have that point of contact with a smiling face that knows a little bit about our town and welcomes people to town. I think that is just so important. And marketing is too, but I think it has to start there.
So, but we're going to bring people back in. We don't need to worry about the Welcome Center and people being there. That's part of our budget. I don't see it being cut out again because, and we haven't really cut it out, we just had people that resigned, and at that point, it's like, what what is our function as a city with the Welcome Center, and what are we looking at? And again, my focus is we need to market the city. That should be our function. There's now the groundswell of you need somebody there to promote the city and the city businesses and the restaurants and that. So fine, we're gonna get back into that business.
I don't know if it's to promote businesses. I don't know if that's how I would define it. I think it's more of to,
They're a
Well,
concierge.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're a concierge for the city.
Right.
But they're promoting those unique aspects of the city that.
and county.
And county.
The package. Happy, I wanted to, looking at the budget draft that you shared with us, and one of the things I was curious about, it's 10, 18, 16, 15 marketing, and there's 20,000 budget. What is that like ad buys or?
It's a separate marketing fund, so you'll see a grant marketing fund, and you'll see one in tourism that is a TTC marketing fund. So TTC makes their decision on what they want to spend there. The grant funding is through the state, and that's locked into what we've got, what we submitted and they approved. So the 6015 is our open one. Right now it's going to be paying for billboards and some advertising for Pecan-Palooza, advertising for the Christmas festival. That's discretionary.
Okay, so that perhaps gets back into the role of what ideally the tourism director, besides supervising the team at the Welcome Center, besides coordinating the lists and information on what's going on and what's going on to the website, but also that they would have to have the kind of knowledge to assess what is a good and wise way of spending that marketing money in the most effective means. So there is a discretionary element to what that person has to be able to manage,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Now, would this also be one where, when we look at services and repairs and you guys get out from under the relation, that maybe that's part of what could go into that and help with more actual
Yes.
investing in the,
No, it's good.
I'm gonna, I got a number of thoughts, but my first thought from what I'm hearing is that you pay the department heads pretty much the same. We're a town of 4,000 basically. There are a lot of towns of 4,000 people, but I don't think any of these other towns of 4,000 people have what we have. I think what Lawrence said about the position, we probably need to pay that person more than the other department heads, because the department head in a town of 4,000 here, say Scott City, or let's say, I don't know, another town the size of St. Genevieve, Festus a little bit bigger, but none of these towns have what we have. I mean, we are if I'm not wrong, we're the oldest town west of Mississippi. We have things that no other town has, and our heritage. And we have things going on all the time that a lot of these other towns I don't think have going on. So I know it's a sticky subject, but I really think the position of tourism director in St. Genevieve would be a lot more important than, let's say, the head of the road crew or head of the water crew or whatever else. I mean, I might be selfish in saying that because I'm a preservationist, but we've done so much preservation in this community, and I think that's what we're selling, and that's what people come to see, and I think the tourism director needs to be tied into that. And as I mentioned before at the Board of Alder meeting, we need somebody who's willing to sell us, because we are competing with Herman and Farmington and Perryville, and they all do some good things. But I think St. Genevieve can do things better with our venue. You know, you walk up and down these streets in St. Genevieve. You can't walk up and down streets any other town in Missouri and feel, experience what we have. Also, a cemetery, of course, the city owns a cemetery, and the foundation, we help in maintaining it and doing things in it to keep it a wonderful place to visit. But I've been at cemeteries in Mackinac Island on a tour that they were selling. I've been at the cemetery in Charleston, in Savannah, in New Orleans, and you know, and we're on a tour, and they show these cemeteries, and I'm thinking, wow, that they don't hold a stick to what we have here in our cemetery and the people we have buried in the cemetery. So again, going back to what Lauren, I would like for us to find more money for this position. I think this position would be a very respected and highly looked upon position as a tourism director compared to other towns, other cities in Missouri. We are the mother of the West. You know, we're first. So that's where I'm at right now.
Are you bound to that salary because of the other department heads, or can money be reallocated, like the savings from the Welcome Center, or reallocated towards that?
We'd have to wait until that happened to reallocate. But I also have so yes, I base it on what I have from my other supervisors, but I also base it on what I have overall for funding. And I have a lot of needs, and tourism is not the only one. So, yeah.
But even if we did have money for a larger salary, we're still dealing with a very large job description that we have sort of shown it's not sustainable.
Right.
So I still think we need to figure out what stays, what goes.
We've privatized, that's right, Susie, we've privatized other things. We've privatized the sewer and water department, and then the street department. Have we thought about privatizing the tourism director position?
That was what a marketing agency would do, is that job. But
Did the aldermen have like a general consensus of what they wanted to do, or?
It was talk to the people around this table, get the community involved, and charge these people with making a recommendation.
No one had any like strong opinions?
I mean, you can watch the tape. There were a lot of there was a long discussion before we even heard from the public. But I don't feel that there was a majority voice from the board.
So to answer your question, there are certain restrictions as to who can be the designated marketing authority. And we are one of those organizations that can.
Yeah.
So you can't just pass it off onto somebody.
And qualify for the DMO.
Right. Right. If you want to keep that designation.
It has to be a city employee, is that what you're saying?
We have to have somebody full-time.
Right.
Because we're.
But can you hire somebody full-time?
You're talking.
Well, if 1099, in other words.
Yeah, you're talking about a contract employee? I don't think so. I think they have to be a city employee.
Okay.
There's a restriction on that. For us, there would be the restriction that they have to be an employee, not just so they want that person's full attention on this job. If you get a contract employee, you would be paying them per item that they're doing, or here's what we want you to accomplish. What they want is somebody full-time that's concentrating on the marketing, the discussion, the meetings, the whatever you're doing, they want that person to be full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
The listing for the job description for the front desk attendants really needs to be updated. We don't have a cash drawer. We don't have display windows. We don't have things for the cooler. This is very outdated. It needs to be corrected. But anyway, I liked her suggestion on the assistant to the tourism director, because you said he's got too much to do. It doesn't have to be a full-time employee. It could be one of your front desk people who's there part-time, who could then do some of these extra responsibilities that are too overwhelming for him to do. And something, what we did as front desk attendants, we did the updates on the website. That was not necessarily the tourism's. We did that. You know, things were taken over that didn't need to be taken over. And I think we could have a more precisely delineated responsibilities for the tourism director and the front desk people. Because let's face it, during the winter especially, there aren't as many tourists in town, and the front desk people then have the freedom of time to do additional things.
Absolutely.
One example that we spent hours and hours on in the winter is we put all of the events that we helped to make that list. We put them all on 30-something free websites, and it takes hours to do that. Just as an example of what we do during free time. They don't just sit there greeting visitors. There is a lot to do in the background.
That's great.
This needs to be updated from time.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? Sandra, any thoughts?
Get up there, Sandra.
Well, I have so many thoughts. One thing I thought might be helpful, and I can share this afterwards, I didn't exactly know where your discussion was going to be going, but of the salary in the city budget, at least as I knew it, as a department manager, all your department managers plan out their direct expenses and their salary. And at that time, you know, you had part-time people. I think that the suggestion about an assistant could hold validity. But of the total in the department at that time, the functions were broken down roughly into marketing, advertising, and communications as the number one. That took about 51.5 thousand in direct expenses and about 45,000 of the total salary for the budget, which was 52% of the total budget for the department for the direct expense and 52% for the salaries. And then from there, the other items, the next highest item was tied between, the next highest item was guest services and front desk coordination, which was 28% of salary and 16% of direct expenses. The next highest one would have been, in terms of salary, was, as you're discussing, supporting local businesses and events. And that doesn't mean planning the events, but it definitely means coordinating with those organizations, I think, as Jeff pointed out. That was 13% of the salaries, and the direct expenses, that added to 21%. And then the smallest category was actually tour solicitation and coordination, because it's not just coordinating those tours when they get there. They want one place to stop and to branch out from there and to meet the bus again when they get done. But also collecting all the information from the historic sites and providing that to the tour organizations. So that was about 7% of salaries and 21% of direct expenses, because you do have to make a lot of copies and put packets together and send that information out to them. And yes, a lot of it is email, but then they want information to give to their people too, because the people on the bus want something to hold to. So if that helps at all, and yes, as Karen pointed out, the $5,000 that the county has been contributing started as, I was there for 7 years, and so it started as a way for the tourism director to have, they have responsibilities to market the whole destination, which means the county and the city. And so at that time, that's when the county started making a contribution for salaries. And then if there were special projects, like one year we did a special program with TripAdvisor, just a marketing dedicated program with them, and we took a special application to the county and they supported it. But from time to time, as with the billboards, they would support special efforts that were above and beyond the city's planned budget, because there might be something that pops up during the year that you don't know about at the time that you put your department budget together. So those are just my nice off the top of the head types of comments. And you're right, you're going to have to get somebody who loves what they do and is dedicated to it and wants to be the face of the organization. And then you're going to have some really caring, dedicated people like the front desk people that we have had over the years. And I think they're still out there. I think there are probably people in the community who would be interested in supporting and assisting the city and county in those roles. And anything, I'm now doing economic development at a larger scale, but I can tell you every place that I go, everyone looks to you for how did St. Genevieve accomplish what they have done. And many of those organizations, or many of those communities that Skip mentioned, it's not unusual. We don't have that many counties or that many communities in the southeast part of the state that even exceed 5,000 people. So when I'm going around to other communities, oftentimes it is between 5,000 to 25,000 people, and they all want to know, how did St. Genevieve get where they are? There's a huge tourism program coming up, as many of you have probably heard, in Iron County with Shepherd Mountain Bike Park. Young, physically active people and their families are coming there to go really fast downhill on a bicycle. And so, but that's drawing special, special foot traffic, just the way the parks is drawing special foot traffic to St. Genevieve. And so it's going to impact the whole region. This park won't just impact St. Genevieve City and County. It's also impacting the whole region. And if they don't find what they're looking for here to spend the next few days with, they will go someplace else and spend the next few days. And just like in your car when you're driving down the highway, if you're 50 miles away and you say, let's go back to St. Genevieve and do something else, guess what? The car is not turning around to come back. You're going to keep going the direction that you were traveling in. So you have to plant that seed as to all the benefits that they can get while they're here in St. Genevieve for their precious personal time that they have chosen to spend in Missouri. So we hope they spend more of it in your community. So that's all I have. Happy to meet with you, and Happy and I have had many discussions about this as we have with the mayor, so happy to help.
Thank you. What do you want, what would you like to have from tonight?
I'd like to have somebody hired, but I don't think that's going to happen.
How do we get more money?
We can either put together a small group to look at this. We can, figure out what the main. It's going to be hard to redraft the whole job description because I'm not getting a lot of specifics about what they're looking for out of that person. Because we're still going to have a small group also represent the city when we start doing the hiring. So we're going to be going through that process as well. So you're going to have a small committee, just like we did last time, that sits down and interviews people, and we go through that process. So I don't know if you feel that we need to have a small group sit down. Let's iron out what the job description should look like, bring that back to the tourism groups, and then move forward from there, or if you want to task them with determining what that needs to be and then go forward after that.
Are the numbers, is the board gonna be voting on this budget?
We've already done a first round vote and it was unanimous.
First round's
And our
already
second
passed.
round is this week on Thursday.
that's
So
what I
I
thought,
don't
so.
see those numbers unless you've heard from somebody. I don't think those numbers are gonna change.
Okay, and that's for staff, is that correct?
Yeah, everything,
Everything.
yeah. But that's not to say we can't look at other
amend it.
funding sources.
Yeah, after that, or,
Right, this
Yeah.
is what the city's
Yeah.
comfortable with,
Yeah.
but I really feel like we need to start exploring very soon, because I think we've got a big job responsibility, a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of things we market, and I think we need to get some support from the other people who are benefiting.
Outside of the county, besides the county.
No,
You're speaking
mostly this
specifically
county,
about the
yes.
And Susie, what happens when that doesn't happen? What if they say, nope, we're just not doing it? Then what? Then what's your plan?
I don't know.
You know,
I don't have a
what's the
plan. I've been asking for us to come up with a proposal for a couple of years now to get more involvement in tourism so that it's not all on the city. Because a lot of people are benefiting and it's not just the city. I mean, we get a small percentage of that revenue that comes in. So I think it should be more of a collaborative effort. And I think it'd be great if the chamber wanted to help a little more and also had contributed more, not just financially. I mean,
Well, I feel like I've been the tourism director for the last 2 months, so honestly, our office it's picked up so much tourism-based wise since the void. Just yesterday, I spent 2 hours on the phone with a couple that's looking for a place to stay for October. Nobody at the Welcome Center answered the phone. So I stopped what I was doing and helped them find lodging for their weekend stay in October. And it's a lot. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is a lot.
And that burden should not be on you.
And I'm still just a one-person staff,
Yeah.
so I don't know how much we can contribute, but we are already contributing in some form or fashion, whether it's Facebook or, it's mostly phone calls really, to be honest. It's a little bit of email and Facebook, but very little. It's more just picking up the phone, someone answering the phone and they want to talk to a person.
And we probably need to address that pretty quickly.
And I'm not sure, like, I don't know, Chris, if maybe you know, is the 800 number in operation?
I couldn't get anything off the last one, I think.
Yeah, because that was the question yesterday. They have been calling the 800 number for 2 days and nobody was answering the phone.
If it does ring, it rings over at the city desk and the volume's usually down when they're
Yeah,
not.
okay. So that would, if we're only having somebody Tuesday or Fridays and Saturdays, that phone is not being answered. Well, the next person under, if you Google St. Genevieve, the next person under it's the chamber, so that's why they're calling us. Again, we're happy to help.
You could
It's
just
just
forward that 800 number to your office.
Yeah, sure, why not? Everybody else, yeah, call it anyway.
Thanks, Tina.
I'm just saying, like, where we are picking up, I feel like a little bit of that slack as far as tourism goes. I mean, we're getting into some of our busiest time of the year with the fall and stuff, and it's tough.
Yeah,
It's
and when I
really
say
tough.
contribute, I'm not saying we want your money. I'm saying.
Oh, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know
and
exactly
the-
what you're
The
saying.
county too. I'm not
Yeah.
just gonna say,
Yeah.
let's open
Yeah.
our hand and say, give us some money.
No.
I'm
Right.
saying, come to the table,
Yes.
help us, help you. We're all helping each
Yes.
other. We all need to work
That's
together.
right. That's exactly right.
Well, I
We
really,
all get phone calls. Kelly, do you get phone calls from people asking just the most bizarre questions about town? Because I do all the time. I had somebody call one day and they wanted information on Candy's store, and I was like, let me look up her phone number for you. Like,
they probably didn't know the name of her.
no, they knew it,
Oh,
but
they
they were
did?
like, we can't find your phone number, and I was like, oh, let me
Yeah,
Google that
Facebook,
for you.
Instagram, whatever, yeah, okay.
But
They
that
had
goes
my
back
phone
to,
number.
we all
Right.
do have a role in this.
Right. And we're not,
We're working
she's
on
not
that.
complaining that anybody had
No.
a call.
Yeah, I wasn't like, this isn't her store, bye.
Thank you.
I really think we should probably create a task force, a smaller group, because there's a lot of people in the room, so you're gonna have a lot of opinions, and if you're wanting to streamline that a
Well,
little
and
bit.
that's good, I mean, it's.
It is good, yeah, it
But you're
definitely is,
exactly
but you're
right,
not gonna get anything
I don't know
done.
that we're
They
gonna
wanted
get,
information on who have it.
And obviously, as a stakeholder, I would hope that the chamber is at the table.
I think so.
I mean, we've been asked,
Yeah.
it's been on our
I think
agenda,
that's
we
what
had a
it
board
was. I
meeting
think
today, and it
that's
was on
what
our
it
agenda
was
again
too,
today.
my
It's been on our agenda for 3 months. And
So I was like,
we definitely have a vested
Google
interest
proposal
in being at the table, so I would hope that we would be brought to the table.
I think she's volunteering. There's the first part.
Well,
I am, well, because I was told I had to.
Yeah. The first settlement.
I would have anyway.
Volunteering.
Chris, just out of curiosity, do you have anything to share with us as far as, you know, the weather or anything? No,
Well, I think that's a good point. You mentioned people coming into the Welcome Center, they want information about the Park Service. We can answer those kinds of questions, but you're right, we're not the concierge service for the town.
Right,
Yeah.
and as I liked those words.
It's a very hospitable term.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's accurate, though.
It is,
truly
it is.
accurate,
Yes, sir.
you know?
I think it was just hit on the head here. The Park Service isn't the concierge, or concierge, okay.
Concierge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We know what you mean, yeah.
But since they've been here, I'm not impressed with what they are. I don't understand what they are, what they're doing. I went into the Welcome Center not too long ago and felt like I had something stuck to the bottom of my shoe by the Park Service people there. So something needs to happen there. If they don't want to promote the town, or can't, then there's a very nice building right across the street that belongs to them that they can set their offices up in. Why are we, as a community, giving the federal government a building?
Well, that,
They can't afford their own building?
no, that, I mean,
No, I'm serious.
I know you are. I'm just saying that, and I touched on that a while ago too, myself, and probably more than I should have, because the focus of tonight, and I wanted to know if that contract, you know, if that ship had already
Yeah,
sailed.
well-
I wanted to know, because I didn't know some background to it. But as to how they're doing and opinion about whatever they're doing, so I appreciate
Anyway,
that, but
that aside.
that aside,
Okay,
yeah.
that's my little
Yeah.
rant.
Yeah.
As far as a marketing or a tourism director, I don't think you're going to get any, quote, qualified person for 40, 50 grand a year these days. I don't think it's happening. And if you do, they won't stay. They'll get their ticket punched here for a year and be gone somewhere else, bigger, better. I think you need to find somebody here. You need to get together. I don't care how big a group you get, shrink it down. You got too many people who are sitting around doing nothing here. Put together some new guidelines and focus. Focus on what you want. I don't think marketing, you've got assorted marketing things going on. You've got a website. You've got the Park Service's presence here. You've got the new museum and learning center that's putting information out. Focus it down on what we're doing in this town. Somebody who can be a coordinator more than anything else, coordinate the activities that are going on here. As far as the website, I mean, what the heck, every 6 months, a new rack card comes out with the next 6 months' worth of activities in town. How much work would that be to update the website with that every 6 months? The rest of the website's fine. What changes? I mean, the town's been here for a couple hundred years, so.
Well, there's actually a lot that changes, but because businesses go in and out and it's constantly,
Well, all right.
I mean, Dina can tell you it's a lot, it's a lot, but I, you know.
Let's
It's
put
a
the
lot
kids
of
to
work.
work. Is my understanding that we have at the high school, isn't there a computer science program? Don't they get into web design, things like that? Hire some of these kids and get them as community service projects.
to update some of this information. We don't need to have a web genius everything. Put some of these people to work. You know, go around town. Have rack cards in every shop, store, place, a sidewalk corner with what's going on and how to get around. A map of the town, what's the where. Put this stuff out there. So if I walk into town, I go to the Anvil, hey, you know, here's a rack card, this is what's going on. If I come in and go to the Welcome Center, there's a rack card, tells me where to go for what I want. If I go to the museum, it tells me. If I go to Bolduc, if I go to the Park Service, if I go down to Sam's Only Child down on Main Street, there's a rack card. I mean, let's not overdo it. Don't try to make somebody do everything that they can't do, that you can't afford to have somebody do. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so a committee of 3 or 4 people, we could sit down, hash out what we think the responsibilities of the tourism director will be, what you want out of that person. Dina's willing to do it, I'll chair it.
A volunteer.
Laura volunteer, Nicole, okay. All right, is there anybody in our,
May I suggest that you find a way to get input from the community to those people?
how do we do that?
That's what this board also is. That's kind of the purpose of this board. We're supposed to be speaking to them, and they're kind of representing all of us. That's why there's shop owners and overnight people and state people, and I mean, so.
The problem is trying to collect the information. How do you put it out there so people will then get you the information back and then decipher through it? I think if you contact the people that you know of this group, of what you're thinking is important, these are the people that you need to talk to.
So that can be a channel that we can use.
Yeah, I think that's a good channel.
I think that's what people are doing, Gene. I mean, I'm hearing, I don't walk down, I mean, I talked to you about this, just, I'm walking down the street, you flag me down. So I think people know who, I mean, I've sent the rosters for these 2 groups to numerous people over the last few weeks, so people know who these folks are, can contact them, and they represent you. They represent everybody who's got a stake in it.
Yeah,
So
we're all
if you
getting
have
emails
concerns,
and phone calls.
talk to any of these folks, and then hopefully that they will do their best to represent everyone's opinions.
Happy, will you have a city representative as well?
That's what I'm
other
saying,
than
I think.
And then I'll give them your information.
So your chairman's opinion also is that there are other people that should also be involved in this, because there's the experience that other people have in the community. So we can also add to the group, is that okay, or is?
Well, I think that one of the things that we were hit on several times tonight, for instance, was the county. I mean, I think that somebody from the county, I think, should be part of it, if that's what we want, you know.
Well, Laura represents county
That can be
businesses
that.
on this
You
board.
could, county business, yeah.
Yeah, she
Well,
technically
I didn't
is.
necessarily mean business, I guess I was thinking more government, but.
Yeah.
Someone who could give monetarily is what you're referring to, the county as far as?
Or just be.
Or at least have some input onto the, you know, onto the job. There might be something that the county's looking for.
Well,
that
I
the
mean,
city-
just like Susie's the liaison to this group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you,
I'm the-
as a city
I'm
liaison?
actually a voting member of the TAC, but I'm the liaison for the TTC.
Okay, so you could also do a liaison from the county. I mean, at that point, I think you limit it, because if not, we're gonna have another meeting like this with 20 people
Right.
and not still accomplish anything.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to avoid and trying to narrow it down, and then we can bring back recommendations, we can move forward with trying to get somebody hired based on the criteria that the group comes up with.
and you know, and Jean, just to point out her point of view, if you want to email anybody on this special committee, I'm sure Happy or someone could make sure that all of our contact information is given to the community entities for you to give us input or feedback.
So we have through Microsoft Office 365, we have tourism at stgenevieve.org. I mean, we could funnel it through just our email, and then I can push it out to everybody else. So tourism at stgenevieve.org is available, and we can just do it that way. So if you know of anybody that has an opinion, if you have an opinion, put it in writing.
So Happy, in the meantime, I think this group and others have made it fairly clear that the part-time assistants we want back. So are you thinking that small committee will also work on that job description? Is that something you'd be comfortable with doing so we can move ahead with getting some folks in place, since the director position might take some time?
Yep.
Even though we won't have the supervisor hired, are you comfortable with moving forward with getting some staff?
I think with ahead of time saying this may change a little bit as you're in this position, here's what we're looking for at this point, but it may change when we get a director in here.
Yeah, and the director can supervise those changes.
Right. It's doing it backwards in some respects because you want the person that's gonna be overseeing the
Right.
department to hire those folks, but we don't have time.
But we've made it quite clear that we need
a body in
those
there.
folks there
Right.
Yep.
quickly, so,
Right,
thank you.
That's good.
7 days a week.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that the staff 7 days a week?
Yes. Oh, that was it.
That was it.
That was it. 2 items. We went through the 2 items. You got other business,
Okay,
or you
all
adjourn.
right.
I actually have some other business. So
Okay.
I'm just curious, while we are in flux, so with the restructuring, when we brought these two groups together, Happy, correct me if I'm wrong, we said meet a minimum of quarterly. Could we possibly say we will meet monthly until all of this is sorted out, so that it is not a long drawn-out process and these two groups feel involved in the process?
Also, we were going to announce there'll be a meeting in October.
Sorry to
which would-
steal that thunder.
No, it's fine, because that would be our regular quarterly meeting, but working on this, we've got to come back together and decide.
I was actually gonna suggest that too, that I feel like we should be meeting more.
Right,
now.
I agree.
Yep, so we'll do that, and we can keep doing that, through November, probably skip December, and then, I'm hoping by that point, we'll have somebody close to being hired. Yep,
So that'll be on the 18th.
sure. I'm
Third
taking it at
Tuesday.
your word, the third Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah. And then November 15th.
Going once.
I need a motion to adjourn.
There's a second. I'm assuming everybody's in favor?
Well, you didn't ask for any other business.